Hello, everyone, and welcome to Database and Methods, a cyber seminar series hosted by VIReC, the VA Information Resource Center. Thank you to CIDR for providing technical and promotional support. Database and Methods is one of VIReC's core cyber seminar series, and it focuses on helping VA researchers access and use VA databases. This slide shows the series schedule for the year. Sessions are typically held on the first Monday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern. More information about this series and other VIReC cyber seminars is available on VIReC's website, and you can view past sessions on HSR&D's VIReC Cyber Seminar Archive. A quick reminder to those of you just signing on, slides are available to download. This is a screenshot of a sample email you should have received today before the session. In it, you will find the link to download the slides. Today's presentation is titled JLV, a deeper look from the viewpoint of research. It will be presented by Amber Lane and Dr. Reese Omizo. Amber Lane has been working as a research coordinator for over 6 years and has been using JLV over the last 3 years for eligibility screening, AE reporting, and outcomes collection. She recently relocated to the Denver side of the Seattle-Denver Center of Innovation, where she is working on multiple quality improvement projects that span from veteran engagement to accessing barriers to using the VA Video Connect system. Dr. Reese Omizo has been a primary care physician for the VA Pacific Islands healthcare system for 25 years. Since 2013, he has served as a physician informaticist in the Clinical Informatics and Data Management Office on the JLV leadership team, providing development, testing, and training support, as well as subject matter expertise in VA DoD interoperability and informatics in primary care. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, thank you, Erica, for that introduction. And I hope everyone can see my screen now. We are very excited today to share with you our final part in our series looking at JLV and research. Today's presentation is really for those of you who joined us for part 1, who were beginners. We really want to build on that base. Or if you frequently use JLV and you just want to learn some more efficient ways to potentially find information, this will be the seminar for you. If you weren't able to join us for part 1 and you truly are a beginner with JLV and haven't had a chance to really log in or use the system, this seminar may come across a little confusing. We aren't going to spend a lot of time on the basics, and we're just really looking at those more advanced features. So we are going to start off with some poll questions. And our first question is, what is your role in research and/or quality improvement projects? Are you an investigator, PI, COI, statistician, data manager, analyst, or programmer, a project coordinator, other, which we ask that you please describe via the Q&A function?
Great, so the answers are streaming in. We'll just let that run for a few more seconds to let people finish up, and we'll be able to share the results. Attendees, please remember to submit your answer choice after selecting. All right, it seems things have slowed down. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So 14% said A, 19% said B, 24% said C, 8% said other, and others are nurse coordinator and research monitor. Back to you.
Okay, great. And as Erica introduced me, I am a project coordinator, so a lot of the examples I give today will be from the work that I have done using JLV and from my perspective on that. All right, our next poll question is, how many years of experience working with VA data? None, I'm brand new to this, 1 year or less. more than 1, less than 3 years, at least 3, less than 7 years, at least 7, less than 10 years, or 10 years or more.
Great. So our answers are coming in quite rapidly. We'll just let that run for a few more seconds. Again, please remember to submit your answer choice. And seems like things have slowed down a little bit, so we're just going to go ahead and close that poll and share the results. So we had 5% said A, none, 13% said 1 year or less, C, 11% said C, more than 1, less than 3, 15% said D, at least 3, less than 7, 7% said E, at least 7, less than 10, and 14% said 10 years or more.
Okay, great. Looks like we have a good mix on here. And then we have one last poll question. What do you mainly use JLV for? So we have research being maybe eligibility and or just verifying data, or we have research that includes eligibility and verification of data plus chart review or abstraction and adverse event reporting, or if you use it for clinical tasks, or you don't use JLV regularly but you plan to in the future, or other, which we ask that you please describe in a Q&A function.
Great. So the poll is now open. We'll just let that run for a few more seconds before we close it. Again, please, if you select other, please describe via the Q&A function. Seems like things have slowed down somewhat, so I'm just going to go ahead and close that poll and share the results. So our results are 4% said A, 27% said B, 13% said C, 19% said D, and 3% said other, and one of it is standardizing content in JLV for pharmacy functions. And back to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for answering those questions. So today, obviously we will be focusing on this perspective from research. However, a lot of the things we cover can be applied in the clinical side. And then for those of you that don't use JLV currently, we hope that you can bank this information and hopefully use it later. Okay, so a few reminders from our first session that we thought were really important just to touch on again. So the first one is JLV is a web-based patient-centric viewer of the EHR data. It is different from Capri and CPRS, and it's important to remember that you're only going to be looking at one patient at a time. So as we're doing some of these more advanced techniques in JLV, often we get questions about, like, can I build a report that has multiple patients in it? The answer is still no. We are still looking at just one patient at a time. The other takeaway we wanted to point out was, again, accessing JLV. So you are going to need to have a CPRS and Capri access because it uses the same verification codes and access codes. But for research, you have to take an additional step, and you need to be making those requests for authorization through the VHA data portal. And then finally, just as another reminder, to increase your loading speeds when using JLV, you're going to be using those filters to decrease the amount of information that you're viewing. And the main filter for that is going to be watching your date ranges. In research, we like to use wide date ranges, and so that can really slow things down. So in my experience, I have used JLV a couple different ways while using or in our research projects. And so I kind of wanted to break up this presentation into those three domains, which I consider to be eligibility, chart review or abstraction, or adverse event reporting. So we wanted to provide some examples and some ways to walk through maybe finding information that might fall into one of these three domains. And today we wanted to provide you the opportunity to also follow along in JLV. So we have a practice patient that we ask that you only use in JLV that you can log in. And we will be using this patient today for not only the slide deck, but also for our actual live demonstration that we're doing at the end. And as a part of that live demonstration, we're hoping also to take your questions. And that could be even from part 1, if you had a chance to use JLV in between that presentation now to part 2. We're looking forward to just really diving in and answering those for you. And this information will be posted in the chat as well. So if you miss all these numbers here, you can view the chat to still log in. Okay, so the first thing, as always, when we're getting into JLV is setting up your workspace. And when you're thinking about the different tasks you're doing, you may organize it differently. But you're going to be pulling in those widgets, which again are those elements within JLV that are containing the data that's coming from the source systems. And so the nice thing about JLV is it's completely customizable. You can add whatever widget you want to your workspace. But even when you leave JLV, that then stays. So the next time you come, you have the same widgets pulled up in your workspace. So let's go ahead and just dive right in and start thinking about our first domain. So often when we're doing eligibility in research, a lot of times it can be just yes and no questions that are fairly easy to find in JLV. For instance, an example in a past study I did, we were using BMI. We found that easily in the vitals. There was just a spot for it built within that widget. Or you could also be looking for like a medication. And those are easily found in the inpatient or outpatient medications. But what do you do when you're trying to find something that is usually just documented in kind of random spots? For example, trying to find out if someone is a current smoker. So I just kind of want to walk through how I would try to find this process. So the widgets that I would pick would be documents, orders, outpatient medications, and radiology reports. Documents is a really nice widget because it has scanned-in documents that's coming from the community, but it also has the notes from the different clinics within the VA as well. I like to also go to orders and outpatient medications because that is where they could put in requests for like a tobacco cessation class or like a nicotine replacement drug. So those are nice jumping off spots as well. And then some radiology reports also mark if someone is a smoker or not. So again, when you're opening up your widgets, a lot of times we're looking over a vast amount of time. And so basically, it can cause your widgets to pull a lot of records. So here we have over 2,000 records that are pulled because I was looking at 5 years. This is going to make my filters work very sluggish, and so it's better to really break this up into smaller amounts if possible. Now, often as well, I find when I'm first introducing to JLV to individuals that a lot of times they'll open a widget and they'll just start scrolling through and trying to find the notes they're interested in and just opening them up and reading them. Or sometimes we will actually do a little filter here at the beginning and then just start reading the ones that we're interested in. This, however, is not all that efficient. So what we suggest doing is using your expanded widgets and first using your advanced filters and then going and building a report with the report builder. So to get to your expanded widget, you're going to click that More button at the bottom, and it's going to open up with more options here. So as we discussed before, but wanted to touch on again, there are different filter options within that expanded widget. You're going to be able to use drop-down boxes, which again, we suggest starting from the highest level, like the filter by site, and then working your way down to the lower levels, like the descriptions. You can also filter by text in the standard descriptions here. So if you put text in this box, basically it is only going to be looking for that text in this chart here below. It is not looking within the actual individual notes. And then you can also filter by clicking any one of these headers, and that will allow you to order the data in them by ascending or descending order. So the nice thing about all these filters is they can be used in conjunction with each other. So let's say you knew what site you wanted. You could start by filtering by site, then you could do a description, and then you could even change it by date. Now, this is not removing any of the filters. This is not removing any of the records that is in this widget. You're just hiding them. So if you want to start over, all you have to do is click Remove All Filters, and you're ready to go again. So the goal here that we're doing is we're trying to find the notes that we are potentially interested in reading through, that we think it might have our information in it. So here, I did that thinking about, again, trying to find out if this person was a current smoker or not. I didn't know what site I might be looking at. I just wanted to look at all the data possible. So I went ahead and filtered by standard description. And you can see here up in the corner, I had a lot of documents I was filtering. So my filters took a really long time. But I didn't want to break it down any further, and so I was just willing to wait. If you have less than 300 records in your widget, that is when the filters run the most smooth, basically. So these are the three that I went ahead and chose as the standard descriptions that I wanted to view, and I got it down to just being 10 documents. At that point, I felt like that's a reasonable amount and that I would be interested in each of those documents. So I went ahead and wanted to build our report. So when we say build a report, what are we talking about? So we're talking about using the report builder function. And when I say report builder, I want you to think of a shopping cart. And you're going around picking which of the records you want to review in a PDF form. Now, I said records, but I'm talking about only those that are under one patient. We are not combining different patients. It's all under one, and it's just the records that are being pulled from the different sources that are connected to JLV. So the nice thing about Report Builder is you can add 25 of these records at one time. The reports can contain up to 50 of the records, and there's not a limit on the amounts of reports that you can create. Now, Report Builder can run in the background, which is really nice. You can start some reports and then go find some of maybe your simpler information that you don't need a report for. And then the other thing is that they remain in your patient's queue for 72 hours even after you've left the patient record. So if you're anything like me, you get called away to another task and you forget where you're at. When you come back, you don't have to do all that filtering again. It's already there for you. So how do we actually build the report? So to build a report, you can choose notes either individually, and it's the plus sign that's next to the record that you want to add, or you can also build it by selecting multiple. So you can select the button that is by the header, and it'll add all of the reports up to 50 that are in your widget. Now, you know that a record has been added to a report because you'll see this R and B with the arrow underneath of it. Once you've added all the records you're interested in, then you're going to go ahead and select the Report Builder, which is located in the toolbar on the top right, and it looks like a document with 3 lines on it. A window is going to open up on the left side of your screen, and it's going to say Report Builder. From there, you can modify what you have selected. So if you added a record that you aren't actually interested in, you're not able to take it off from the widget, but you can go within this window and find that record. And once it's highlighted, if you hit Clear Select Record, it'll remove it. Once you are happy with the records you have, you can go ahead and select Build. At that point, it's going to show that it's loading, and then once it's ready, you will see that the status changes to completed. So once a report is built, it's going to show up on a list with the other previous reports, and you can click the hyperlink title, and it'll open up in another window. So this is an example of what it would look like within Internet Explorer. Now, it opens up as a PDF, and at that point, you can save it if you would like. Just remember, this is full of PHI, so you want to make sure you have the proper authorization to do that, and you're saving it in a secure location. But mainly what I use this for within checking for eligibility is using that keyword search. So I use Control F or the magnifying glass with the 3 dots. Now, the nice thing about these reports is it doesn't have to be from just one widget. Remember, it's like a shopping cart. So you're going around, you're looking at your widgets. So for example here, I have consult encounters open, I have documents open, and we can add whichever one of these records we would like to that report. And it'll show you which widget it comes from. You can see that here underlined in red. And then here's another example of a report that was opened in Google Chrome. I actually prefer to open it in Google Chrome because when you type in the word that you're looking for, it actually tells you how many times it is within the document. The other suggestion for finding this information is try to not use necessarily a specific form of the word. For example, if we wanted to know if this person was a smoker, maybe it might be also listed under smoking. And so it's best if you just start typing the word and see what comes up, as long as it's not something that is often a combination of letters that's in many different words. So something to remember with Report Builder is that it contains up to 50 items, and if you don't clear out previously selected items, then you may end up viewing those again. So, for example, if I created a new report and it only had 5 items, then those same 5 items would remain in the queue even after the report is made. So the next time I went in to make a report, if I wanted to add, say, 10 items, the report would actually end up having 15 items in it. I would be viewing the same 5 that I had in there last time, plus my 10 new ones. However, I want to make sure that I hit clear all, and that'll remove those 5, and then I can view 10 new ones. It's just something to keep in mind. If you have reached up to the 50, then it'll give you a little warning that lets you know you've reached the maximum amount. So that is kind of how I would approach finding something for eligibility. And those same principles are brought to the same for chart abstraction. The difference with chart abstraction is that you want to go a little more in depth. You're looking to find maybe results. You're looking to find if this was ordered, what happened to it. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that as well. And so the widgets I would use for that, again, is documents, procedures, consult, encounters, orders, and radiology reports. And I just want to quickly mention as a housekeeping thing, if you're looking at the slides that were provided beforehand, I don't have radiology reports circled. I'm sorry, it fell off somehow, but I would use that. And the difference between radiology and reports is really set by the source system on how they enter it in at their location. So some locations it may fall under radiology reports, some locations it may fall under procedures. So it's always nice to just compare those widgets to each other. And with documents, again, we're looking at potentially if it was done in the community, it might have been scanned in, or it could even be written within notes. They could have gone to the doctor afterwards and they discussed the results. And then consults and encounters and orders are really great because they can be kind of the starting place to help you find a date range. So talking more about that is how I use the consults and orders widget. So to start off with orders, and again, our example was to try to find an echocardiogram in the last 2 years. So for the orders, this time I didn't filter by site, and I wanted to look at cardiology notes, so I just went ahead and used the text filter here to see what we would get. And the first view that pulled up do show that it was an echocardiogram that was ordered. So what I would use from this, there's not a hyperlink, so you can't go to the actual order right here, but I can see the date And I can also see the site, which can be really helpful then to jump over to documents, to then filter by the DoD or filter by date and try to see if there was any results around that time that were either uploaded or mentioned. The same for consult encounters. This time I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, and so I used their descriptions and clicked trying to find cardiology here. So these consult orders or consult encounters can be really nice because if you click that hyperlink, it can open it up and it can tell you what has happened. So maybe it wasn't accepted for some reason, or maybe the patient wasn't able to be reached and so it couldn't get scheduled. And I know for our chart abstractions, our providers wanted to know not only if it happened, but also if it didn't happen, maybe what was the reason, why, because that influenced how they proceeded with care. So I find those widgets to be very helpful. Another part of, especially when you're looking for radiology exams, is that in these advanced filters, you can also try to find images. And image, again, doesn't mean that it's only pictures. So for example here, this would have been really helpful. It did have the actual exam, but also it has the results here. So we would have collected that as part of our chart abstraction. And then again, as I was saying, all of this would be kind of a jumping off point to then go back to documents and search through notes, again using Report Builder to try to find if they talked about any of those results within those primary care visits or cardiology visits or pulmonology. And so you could just filter for those notes that you're interested in, add them to Report Builder, and then do that word search. Now with this report, when we built it, you can see that we got this little circle with an exclamation point in it, even though it says that it's completed. So we went ahead and clicked on this hyperlink contents, and it opens up this second box, which can show you which ones didn't upload. So when you scroll down and you find the one that didn't upload, you can either go to that date and see what it is individually. But the reason that these don't upload is usually that they have an attachment or that they are marked sensitive. And so it requires special permission and a special extra click when you go into those actual visits. So kind of the last domain that we have that I wanted to touch base on was adverse events. So we use JLV a lot when we're looking for, say, hospitalizations in the last year. And so again, using that documents, if you can't tell, it's one of my favorite widgets to use because they could have scanned in summaries. Sometimes also veterans will go and see primary care right after a hospitalization. They have like a follow-up appointment or a nurse calls them to see how they're doing. Also, you can see inpatient summaries, which are within the VA. And then there's a kind of a lesser known widget that I wanted to talk about today called Community Health Summaries and Documents. So the Community Health Summaries widget is reports that come directly from the community health partners. So this is limited, but this can be really helpful for finding information about those outside hospitalizations or outside ERs. So you'll notice with this widget, there actually isn't a more expanded option here. So what you see here is what you get to use. And so you can individually click on these, and this is what it would look like when it opens. It does have tabs that you can click within the document. However, it's still kind of clunky. So you can also note that you have the option over here to add it to Report Builder. So we highly suggest doing the Report Builder because it opens it up in a PDF, and that is easily able to then do those word searches through it. So these examples that I gave is the way that I approach finding information. Now you can see here that there's information, the same note, within 3 different widgets. So part of the JLV process, and part of the fun, I guess, is that you are going to have to figure out what works best for you. The report builder, the filters, and using widgets to jump to other widgets with a time, that's going to work across the board. But you're going to have to find where most of your information is held. So for instance, some sites for us, when we were looking for pulmonary function tests, were often always in the radiology widget, and so it was very easy to go there. Versus other sites where they were done in the community, so we always had to use documents or be using those report builders to search through for text and notes. Some of it is just going to be a search and find, but those report builder and the filters can really at least make it more efficient. So if you have questions about this information, you can always reach out to me or to Dr. Omizo. My experience is a lot more with hands-on doing the research side of it, and obviously Dr. Omizo has more of the nuts and bolts and background information as well as using it. So feel free to contact us. And at this point, we want to move to kind of our live demonstration, and then we're going to open it up for questions. We're trying to save quite a bit of time for questions in case you have any. So I'm going to go ahead and share. Oh no, it logged me out. JLV here. Sorry about that. I was really hoping it would be faster. So mine is going to take a while to load. So I'm actually going to shift this over to Dr. Omizo, who can then walk us through how to build a report and how to also walk through those community health summaries as well. So Dr. Omizo, I'm sending it to you.
Okay, thanks, Amber. I'm going to share in a second here. All right, you should see my screen coming up in just a second. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Great. Okay. Great. Well, thanks, everyone. And I'm just going to walk you through some of the items that Amber covered very nicely. What you'll see here, I'll just talk about the layout. So most of you are familiar with JLV, but just as a quick recap. So this is the very first workspace, the default tab here. And we have the upper left-hand corner with all of our demographic information. And the rest of the tabs here are, of course, very different than what you'll see. And this is where your customization comes in. So each and every one of these tabs have been created by me. And this is something that I encourage you to start working on. And we can discuss more about that in a little bit. But the main point that we wanted to touch on today was the report builder. So all of these different data elements coming in from all the various sites can be added to a single report using the report builder. So all these little plus signs in each of the widgets, as well as the plus sign here in demographics, can be used to create a single report. So that report builder is up here in the upper right-hand corner, right next to the settings icon. Right here is the report builder. So when you click on it, report builder pops up here in this little panel on the left as an overlay. Now, report builder runs all the time, so you don't have to have it open. It's just completely gone. But the idea here is that you know what you want as you're looking through it. So rather than doing a Google-like text search and looking through the entire record, we're going to select a subset of records and use that subset to create a PDF that we can search through. Okay, so I have a pretty busy workspace here, and I put it on here to demonstrate that you can change the height of these widgets on here. But the big reason that I did that is that I almost never look at the things that are below the orange bars. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let me just open this up. And here I have 584 documents, which is a little high, but by clicking on more, I can actually see the documents that are here, and I can use the filter tools to change the number of documents that I have to sort of focus on what I'm doing. And Amber had talked about filtering in succession. So if I know that I have 500 documents and I want to cut that number down, I could decrease the number of sites. Maybe I just want to take a look at the stuff coming from Honolulu. So as I select this, there's still 584 documents in this set. However, when I choose one site, I'm telling the system to hide everything else except for the site or sites that I choose. And as I add more, that number goes up. See that? I can also deselect it. Click here and agree to hide. Okay, so now I actually have a subset of 7 documents, and this is something that I could deal with. Right? I could look at these titles. I could look at a bunch of other things. For instance, here I know that in Honolulu they use primary in the title for primary care, so that's something to keep in mind. Now that 584 documents, as I mentioned, are still here, but because I applied a filter, the next filter that I apply applies to that subset. So out of that 584, I chose Honolulu. Out of the 7 Honolulu records, these are the only titles that exist. And I can choose those. So now I've chosen those 2 there. And to get rid of the filters, you remove them all. Now, when you want to send the things that you're interested in to the report builder, all you have to do is click on the plus sign. Just make that go away. And that will add items to your report. Now, I'm just keeping it short because the report builder can take some time to build. So I've added all of those things in the background. So you see the RB. Anytime you see the RB on here, that means something's been sent to the report builder. So I'm going to open the report builder again. Upper right-hand corner, here's the report builder. And these are those records that I have just selected. Okay, so now I'm going to tell the system, take those, I want those, and I want to build a report. So you can name it whatever you want. Now these reports, when they're being built, you can see that it's in progress. It'll build them, and once they're completed, they'll sit here in the Patient Reports tab. So I was in the Current Report tab. That's where I sent all of my report builder items. Right? And now I've asked it to build me a report. So it's building that. It's completed. So there was a little notification here in the upper right. But when I click on the name of the report, I can actually bring up all those documents that come up in a single report. So you remember in Amber's viewer, you saw that little magnification glass there? You don't have the magnifying glass in this particular version, so it could be browser or setup dependent. But the main thing to remember is that once you've selected the actual document, I'm going to make it bigger for you here. Simply hold down the control key, should be in the bottom left-hand corner of your keyboard. So hold down control and hit F. And then you'll bring up your search tool. Now, in this case, I actually had words I was looking for in a previous search, so that comes up here. But if I wanted to look for something in here like Anchorage, there it is. So it just gives me my first hit. If it occurs multiple times, I'll see sort of these yellow bars showing every time there's a hit, and I can actually go and scroll through each of these. So I'm going to pull up one that I built earlier. Okay, so here's one in Community Records. Now, this one comes from this widget here, the Community Health Summaries and Documents widget. And I pulled this one up earlier. There are 17 documents in here, and I basically just clicked here on the stack, and I selected all of them, and I created one large document. And I did that because for the community records, we often don't have much to go on in the way of titles. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but we have a lot of partners in Epic, and they've been pretty consistent about their titles, but each individual record doesn't really tell you what's in there. So I just throw all of them into a single report, and let's say I'm interested in hypertension for this patient, treatment, etc. So I have a document here that's 30 long. I'm going to go and hold down Control key, Control F, and I'm going to put in hypertension. Okay. So there's 2 hits, one here and another further downward. They're both in the same general vicinity. They're right here. Okay, so I would just go here and click on both for Banner Health. So that might not have been the best example. So what I use this for things like, I look for things like a pneumonia vaccine. I'll type in pneumo. Here I have 4 hits. Right? So this person actually had a pneumonia. Here's a pneumonia vaccine. Now you'll notice that if I'm looking for vaccines, once I hit the general vicinity, I can actually take a look and see what other vaccines might be there. So looking at your hits actually gives you an idea of what exists and what you might want to use for future search terms. So again, this is tough because there's not a whole lot of content. These are test patients. I think that when you use a real patient, it'll become immediately obvious as to what could or couldn't be helpful. So I'm going to do a couple more of these, but what I want to point out is that the report builder is continually running in the background. And when you build reports, your reports will stay there for 72 hours. They do expire, but you could close JLV, come back in here, open up the same patient, and these reports will be here for 3 days. All right, I want to close that up. So I'm going to see, are there any questions, Amber, in the question or chat box?
I am not seeing any right now, but if people want to write in questions, please feel free to do that, and then I will jump in and provide this to Dr. Omizo to answer while he's working on showing some of these parts.
And I'll keep doing these. I know it's going to be repetitive, but sometimes it takes a while to really sink in, figure out what does and doesn't work. And I'll take a bigger date range. I'll use something from progress notes here in a second. But what I wanted to show you was that those things that I selected to put in my report builder are still here, despite the fact that I have already built the report. Right? I already built the report, and the items I used to create that report are still sitting here in my current report basket. So I'm going to clear the current report area. You'll see that my previous reports are still there. Notice how that RBs have disappeared. So that means that now I can start with a fresh slate. So when Amber mentioned that you have a maximum of 50 items per report, if I have a larger report like this one, and I max it out, and I've had 50 in here, and have 50 waiting in my current report basket, I'd have to clear the basket before I can create another report. So again, I'm going to walk you through creating another one. So here's my progress notes widget that has 580 items in here, so a little bit too much. So what I want to do is change the date range. Here's a quick hack. Just click there, change the year, click apply. And so while that's running, we can talk about some other things here. Why do I have this thing set up this way? So here is my notes tab. And I know that I can find progress notes in documents. I know I can find them in progress notes themselves. The ones from the community, I can find in community health summaries and documents widget. But I have appointments here, which might not be obvious. But the reason I have it here is that I can actually take a look and see where the patient's been recently. So if there was a visit here but no note to go along with this particular appointment, I'd know to call the clinic directly and ask for the provider to sign the note. Okay, all right, cool. So this is
we do have a quick question here. Once a pattern of widgets have been figured out to obtain a report, can one basically keep that pattern of widgets saved in order to use it in other patient records?
Yes, you may. So these tabs have been created, and all of the widgets and the date ranges that I have placed upon this particular workspace will stay there. So if I were to select another patient that I've just seen, when a patient switches in JLV, everything that you see here remains the same. So you get the very same tabs. You get the same widgets with the same date ranges. Okay, so there's good and bad to that. So if I were to do a search here on a patient that's brand new to our system and I don't have a whole lot of data on them and have a long date range, that's going to stick. So when I switch over to a new patient, I could have this widget just hanging forever because it's going through, thousands and thousands of records. So anytime you see your widget loading and you're saying, wow, this is taking way too long. So this is a fast one. Let me just give you an example. So I'm going to change the date range here to something a lot longer. And so if I see something just spinning and spinning and I'm saying, wow, it looks like this person's going to have a whole lot of records here, I can always stop the search. And I can put in something that's a little more reasonable. And while that loads, and you can jump all over the place, and it doesn't matter, those things will be working in the background. So, when you look at the tabs I have a whole bunch of different things. So rather than have everything sort of congesting one workspace and having that take a long time to load, I split them up. So I just have a limited number of items on each of these tabs. You notice I don't have to scroll down here to see what's below it. I just have 5 that are on here. So normally when I open up a patient record, I just click through all of my tabs here. Right? And these things will load in the background. So I could still do work here, but I've already asked the computer to go and search for all of these things. JLV's finding things from all the other sites. Okay.
And the filters, though, that you set, do those remain within the widgets?
So the filters, I'll open these up for you. So as far as the filters go, every time the widget reloads, the filters will apply to whatever comes back. So you see where it says it's loading? There's nothing in here right now. So these start out brand new. Okay, so each time that the widget opens up, and here's a good example of why you don't want to go really huge. It's taking forever. Okay, so we don't want to do that, so we'll exit that. Oops. Okay, I just blew that up. Okay, so 2000 doesn't normally do that, but I don't know if it's because we're under load. But generally, all it's going to do is just going to take a long time. So I'd recommend just changing your date ranges. I should be coming back up online in a second. So what's happening here is that we're just selecting patient. Is JLV's going out and finding all of the records from all of these sites for the registration portion of it. And then as you see these spinning here, each individual widget at that particular point in time is going out to search for these. So my default on the very opening tab is pulling all this information in. The rest of these have not yet loaded. Okay, so like I said, if I'm busy and I want to get these things in, I can just go and click through these. And you notice they're launching each time I place the click. Okay, all that's loading in the background. All right, so that's a good example of us logging out, logging back in. So what's happened with the report builder? Again, up in the upper right, next to the settings, is your report builder. Nothing, right? I haven't selected anything in my current report. However, previous reports that I've built are still here. So maybe I had a lousy one I didn't like. For whatever reason, I can delete it by clicking on it and deleting the selected record. Now you'll see, let me just make this a little bit. You see right here where I have these little error messages. So every so often when you put things into the report builder, some items cannot be placed there. Sometimes you have to print them up individually. So if you open up the contents of your report builder, you'll be able to see what did and did not get completed. So maybe my clicking like crazy here has caused a little bit of a problem. Normally what will come up here are the different items and then a green or a red dot. The red dot will tell you whether you need to print something up separately. All right, I'll close the report builder again. Okay, so let's go take a look at problem list here. So I have problems listed. Now I'm getting problems from all VA and DoD connected systems. And I can also get problems coming from the brand new Cerner records here from the VA, would be our federal HR, and then from the DoD as well, NHS Genesis. So that's actually retrieving these here. I could also have a third widget here that could give me problems from, say, the community. So I'm going to go down to the widget tray. Bring up.
Can you also add a pathology report to your report builder?
Yes, you can. So if I'm in lab here, let me go pull up some lab results. Let's get a bigger one here. So here's an example here, Amber. You know, we were talking about, applying different date ranges. So here's a case where I applied different date ranges starting from today going back. So this would be today going back for a few months, 6 months, and I believe a year here. So it's same widget, right? Just different date ranges, so they allow each one to load faster, as opposed to having a couple hundred loading into one. We split these up for efficiency. So let's go look for a path. Hopefully we have some path here. So I'll click on More to expand the widget, which you should always do. And I'm going to look for the different types. So there are 131 here. I'm not going to look through these. I'll just go to Filter by Type, and I'll click on Anatomic Path. And I went from 131 down to 2 lab results. So these results, okay, let's see, hang on. Why do I not have this here? So here's a good example of setting up a widget and forgetting about it and coming back and going, I don't see things here. So I noticed that I don't have the plus signs here, right? And it's because on a previous session, I had used this widget and I have hidden some of the columns. So I'm going to put these columns back. Okay. And then apply it again. There we go. We're back to normal. So yes, I can add these to Report Builder. So I just click here. I don't even have to read what's in here. I just set that to build myself a new report. Again, Report Builder, upper right. The two items that I selected are here. I'm going to build this report. Call this Anatomic Path 1. So while it's building my report, again, I can close the Report Builder. I can take a look at whatever I need to here. Right, I can play around here. So we just have 7 results. So the reason that I had limited the columns when my report's ready, the reason I had limited the columns was like, to copy and paste this into my note, it's too many. Maybe all I want is the date, the test, and the result. So in that case, I would limit my columns to just those items, right? Apply them, and then I'd have a short list that I could actually then copy and paste into my note. All right, let's hop back over. Sorry to be a little bouncing around here, but I see my alarms telling me that my report's complete. And here is my anatomic path report. So I am going to resize the window, change the magnification so you guys can see it. And in this case is 194 pages. So I just selected a few items, but there's quite a bit there in path. So I don't know what's in here because this is a test patient, but I can actually kind of take a look. So I'll click on holding down Control key and F, find here, and I'll try and type the word biopsy. If that's not there, I think tissue. Okay, here we go. So this one actually has, again, because it's a test patient, we may see things in here that we wouldn't normally see, and that's the case. Okay. So if this were a real patient, I could put things in here and pick these up. Okay, so malignancy, that's probably not the best word to use. Maybe neoplasm. That's not good either. Okay. Skin's not good either. So this patient probably has some skin issues. Oh, here we go. Malignant neoplasm of the skin. All right, so the path result, I could type in a word like atypical, like atypical cells. So if it was a real path result and there were some abnormal cells that were atypical, should have showed up in my search. But you kind of get an idea of how to use this search tool, and it's incredibly powerful. It works very quickly. And so I can actually kind of take a look at some of these things, and I can see that there are some words here that I might use in the future. So if I see this patient actually has gingivitis and I'm looking for the medication, I could actually look for stuff like Paradex. Here's 32. There we go. So what it's doing is it's just looking for the string of text through a whole 194 pages very quickly. And it's giving you an idea of where these are clustered here. See these yellow things on the side? Showing you where the hits are.
And we had another question that popped up.
Sure.
Oh, it just disappeared off my screen. Where is it? Is there a documentation component in Report Builder? For example, when the PDF doc is created, there would be an endnote that shows the widget sources used.
Yes. So if you want to see the sources used, that's what the contents are here. So generally, these aren't that important, but here we go. It'll just tell you what's included and where it's from. This is what they're talking about, right? So this is a very short report, maybe not as helpful as maybe looking at the longer one. This will also show me the ones that did error out. You have to print the item manually. So something like this, I think, is what the person is asking for.
Yes.
Right.
And then is it possible to see appointment notes and diagnoses included when building a report with the outpatient encounters widget?
With outpatient encounters, let's pull something up. Let's take a look. So I'll type up Encounters, take the workspace, and I'll go to outpatient encounters. And so sorry about the weird ordering of this. It should really be encounters outpatient. We have something in the hopper to get that fixed, as well as medications outpatient. But let's go to the outpatient encounters. Close my widget tray. And again, not so concerned with the stuff down here, but only because it helps me load up the other things. So always, I'll go to more. Take a look at that first. Okay, so what do we want to do with encounters here? Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, is it possible to see appointment notes and diagnoses included when we're building a report with outpatient encounters?
To see both the details and the note? Is that what is being?
Yeah, I think that's what the hyperlinked information that's attached to it.
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. I don't think I have ever done it. Let's try it. So I'll add that to the report, build a report. So we'll build that real quick and take a look at it. It should actually be in there. You know, we include the contents. I believe it should include all of the hyperlinks as well. So it should have both these details, right, as well as this note. Oh, it's done. Let's take a look. And when it loads, I'm going to click on it. Size, yeah, looks like we have everything. Oh, I don't know why this is so big. Okay, I'm going to just close this up so we don't have any confusion. All right, when I built this report too, I did not delete the other stuff that I had in there in my current report. So let me close this up so you can see what's going on here. I apologize for this over so you can see this. All right, so I was just interested in this one thing, but I had forgotten to clear my current report. So basically all the stuff I had here previously got incorporated into the report. So first, watch this report builder. I'm going to clear everything. Okay, and now I'm going to put in just this one thing and build the report. So I'll make that my third report. It's building. Again, I could close it. I could also minimize it and have it hang out here on the side. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to see if this item includes both the details and note, and my report is ready. Let's take a look. All right. And we do have it here. So yeah, I have the encounter information and I also have the note. Okay. Hope that answered the question.
It's always fun when you find stuff you didn't know.
It is. It is. Oh, let's see. I got to clear out my current report because the RV is still here. So let's get rid of it just for good housekeeping here. So let's put away our toys.
Yeah. And then we had another question. Where can you find the ICD codes after each visit?
ICD codes after each visit. The details will sometimes include the ICD-9 codes for us, but not always. So, you know, JLV is like a television. You know, we just get what we get. And here's some ICD-10 codes. So if the site is sending this information to us, we'll see it. You know, we're like the TV and we're not the cable company. We don't control the content. We just display it. So every time you open up a widget and you see that spinner, we're making the request, like changing the channel. You know, we'll pull in what we can and we'll display it. If you suspect you're missing something, I would just say, just refresh the widget and have it go and do a second pull. And there are times, you know, everyone has to do some system maintenance or whatever, so it might be at that given point in time, something's not available to you or something happened in the transmission. You can always just refresh that and get another pull. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have one more here. How can we run reports that show detailed treatment notes for fee surgery or radiation oncology?
For fee, okay, so when we talk about fee, we're talking about things going out to the community, correct? Yeah, I'm assuming yes. I'll go real quick. So here's the community health summaries and documents widget. It is one of those widgets that do not have a more, unfortunately, but I have 17 records here. So if you want things from the community, my recommendation is to forget about figuring out what's in each. Send all. So I'll send all 17 to the report builder. And I will build a report called community. And so everything that happened in the community in these 17 records are now being built in a single report. So I can actually take this report when it's done, that PDF, and do text searches for the thing that I'm interested in. Visit information, notes, biopsy results, etc. Okay, so we're
loading. Sorry, will JLV be replacing CPRS once we go to Cerner?
You mean as far as being a search tool? Is that the question?
How will JLV be used once we go to Cerner?
So once we go to Cerner, if you are at a non-Cerner site, so right now Spokane is the only Cerner site. So if the patient goes over to Puget Sound or to Portland, so that would mean that the people at that site, the VA site that still uses CPRS Vista, would have to use JLV to see Cerner documents. There's no other way for them to go and pop in and look at the Cerner record. So all the Spokane records are going to be available in JLV for folks to see at the non-Cerner sites. That's what's going to happen. Now, most of the sites will still have CPRS running, so it should be in the read-only version. So you'll be able to see some of those things, but things like the clinical reminders will be dated. So if you had a cutover at Spokane, say, in the fall of last year, all the clinical reminders that you see are only current up until the date of cutover. Everything else is it's aged. Does that answer the question for you, or are there other questions?
Well, we're getting toward the end of our time here, so are you able to stay on a little bit longer?
I can.
Okay, so we can answer a few more questions. I think I have one more after you finish this one.
Okay, go ahead. So this is the community record, but I was just bringing it up so people could see where it is.
Okay. Can I submit a list of patients to analyze at one time?
No, right? So JLV will open the records for a single patient across all the sites of care, right? But you cannot put multiple patients on a single pool. And if you think about it, when I described how it works, we go out here and we ask all the sites, do you have this patient's record? If we wanted to do multiple patients, we'd have to ask for multiple patients all at the same time at all of the sites. So, it would be too complex for one, and the other, it would be too much of a load on all systems. It wouldn't work.
Okay, and this will be our final question. How will JLV be used at Cerner sites?
So at the Cerner site, so at the time of cutover, some data will be moved from your old Vista system into the new Cerner product. But all of that information in the past is still going to be available to you in JLV. So I would say that I'd use it sort of in the same way that I use it now, right? I have CPRS as my main record, and I actually have my second screen with JLV on it so I can do lookups. So in the same way, a person would be using the Cerner power chart and then having JLV on the side and looking up records from their old Vista system, as well as information that may be coming in from the community or outside sites, other sites or the DoD. Does that answer your question? We can stick around, so if we can stay live, I'm willing to stick around.
I think that is all our questions. So I think we are ready to turn it to Erica to finish it up.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, so this is Whitney. There was one question sent through the chat, and it's, are all the data JLV pulled from in VA CDW?
In the VA CDW are all the data there. The reports are not there. The data should be the same data. Right? We're all pulling from the various VISTA systems, so we're getting the same data. But those reports that you get out of the VSSC are not things that JLV can do. I sure wish we could, but yeah, we can't do that. For the other person who was asking about, records going with multiple patients, et cetera, that would be something that you get out of the CDW or the VSSC.
Great, thank you.
All right, if there are specific questions, either post them there in the chat or you could shoot us an email and we'll get back to you. Thanks.
Amber and Reese, thank you again for taking the time to present today's session. And to the audience, if your questions were not addressed, as they said, you can contact the presenters directly. You can also email the VIReC help desk at virec@va.gov. Please tune in for our next presentation, the series on Monday, April 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Dr. Maria Moore will be here to present race and ethnicity in VA data, and we hope to see you there. Thank you once again for attending. We'll be posting the evaluation shortly. Please take a minute to answer those questions and let us know if there are any data topics you're interested in. We'll do our best to include those in future sessions. Thank you.